Postgame show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. The Husker Afterparty Postgame show is brought to you by Action Plumbing, AC and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating. Now, here are your hosts, Jake Bockelvin and Nick Sainert.
A beautiful scene in Kinnick Stadium going on as we speak. Garrett Nelson has the Heroes Trophy in his hands.
Let's go.
Coming back to Lincoln, baby.
Oh, baby. The curse is over. The 7-game losing streak to Iowa. Plus, Iowa hadn't lost, 14 in a row in November?
Wow, what a streak, yeah.
So this is, we were just saying before we went on the air, how many wins would you trade for the win today? I mean, if you could have told me right now, you lost Oklahoma, Minnesota, and Wisconsin was going to give you pain. But this makes up for a lot, right?
Well, it does. A little too late for the season, I think. But it's still just a great way to go to the offseason. Obviously, 4-8 is not what you wanted if you're Nebraska. But I've said this for 5 years running now. You don't necessarily have to get to a bowl to get something done in the season. Just beat Wisconsin or Iowa because you haven't done it in so long. And year after year after year, they couldn't get it done. Now to the final moment, they're up 24-0. We're all feeling good. And then the feelings start coming in. Iowa starts getting back in the game. Right. And we're all thinking, there's just no way. This one will rip our heart out one more time before the next era begins. And Nebraska comes up with a few clutch plays, had plenty of opportunities, but came up with a few clutch plays there at the end to go ahead and win the game 24-17. We welcome you guys to call in on the Honda of Lincoln hotline, 402-464-5685. Of course, this is the After Party Post Game show right here on 93.7 The Ticket. Shout out to Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating for helping us out this year with the post game show. So go ahead and give us a call. We'll get you on the line after we get our thoughts here in just a second. But we already do have a call for Thomas, so I'll let Thomas start it off. And I'm interested to see, by the way, from you guys out there, how happy you are, how belated you are with the win, how much of a frustration that ride was toward the end. And, of course, there also is some reports before the game that we'll get to by the end of the show as well. But let's first listen to Thomas. Thomas, you're on the After Party show. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, we can't complain. Huskers finally get a win over the Hawkeyes.
Yep, great day for football. Texas won earlier. Nebraska wins just now. For a moment, towards the end of that, I thought we were about to get another Adrian moment where I thought it was called dead, and they make it the way it wasn't. Other than that, I was actually happy with how the offense performed, and the defense performed amazing during that first half. Second half, they died down, but they held it. They didn't break, and we got the dub.
There we go. Thanks for the call, Thomas. He's excited. He's a bit of a Texas fan, so we'll let that slide. But he's excited about Nebraska getting the win, too, today. As we look at the final stats here as well, total yards. Usually Iowa wins winning the total yard battle, so it doesn't matter as much in this game. But Nebraska did get it done there, 329 to 274. Passing, of course, shout out to Trey Palmer, who's now the Huskers' all-time single-season receiving yards holder, and he had a great game to finish it off. He needed, I think, 122 yards coming into the game. He finished with 165, so he's got the record pretty clearly. One thing that you could complain about today, again, is rushing yards. 51 rushing yards, 35 attempts, 1.5 yards per rush. And in other games, sometimes that's hurt by the sack stats. Not too many sacks in this game. They just could not get it going on the ground, which makes it a little bit questionable toward the end. I mean, they started offensively. Nebraska was kind of flinging the ball all around the yard throughout the game. And then toward the end, they started playing conservatively and not being able to get first downs to wrap it up. So that's something we can kind of talk about as well. But ultimately, what changed this game, Nebraska finally on the right side of the turnover ledger, 4 turnovers for Iowa, just 1 for Nebraska. And there are a few more out there in Quinn Newsom's hand.
Yeah, and there were some weird penalties, the jumping over the shield, which you don't normally see. They gave Nebraska a first down and kind of kept the clock running. Nebraska kind of went into a shell in the late third, fourth quarter, but in some ways it worked out. You get the punt, the guy going over the shield, you get the first down. So that runs an extra 5 minutes off the clock. You could see that Mickey Joseph was very conscious, and Mark Whipple probably along with him, of the ball 5 seconds and in late. Yeah. I think they thought, we should be able to hold on to a 4-0 lead. You jump out to a 17-0 lead, despite the fact that you missed a 33-yard field goal early. I thought that was going to come back to haunt this team, but it didn't. You go 87 yards for Trey Palmer. Mickey Joseph told the network, Big Ten Network, we saw a mismatch there. We felt good that we could attack their secondary. Basically what Mickey is saying there. Then they lose Spencer Petras, Iowa. I thought it could be one of those things, kind of like Minnesota losing Tanner Morgan, and their backup is even better.
Kaliak Manis.
Kaliak Manis, who has played well down the stretch. So I thought, Alex Padilla might be a better choice. It's not like Spencer Petras is great, but man, there's got to be a conversation at some point during Christmas between Brian and his dad. And I imagine the conversation goes like that. It's like along the lines of, son, you're fired.
Yeah, I think so.
Sorry. Because that's a putrid offense that we saw today. Is. I know Nebraska has played much better since Georgia Southern, since the Oklahoma game. I think since that time, they've averaged like 23 points a game defensively. And you thought they had a chance today anyway, because it's Iowa. That's one of the worst offenses that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's sad if you're an Iowa fan, because a middle of the road offense would make you a really good team.
Yeah.
But they're so bad. I mean, they're one of the top 10 worst offenses in the entire country.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not happy with the win today, but if I were an Iowa fan, I would be angry.
Well, and it was kind of setting up for Nebraska to win this game when you lose. I mean, they came into the game without their best weapon in Sam Laporta, the tight end. Yeah. They were without Monte Pottebaum, their starting fullback, which is pretty big in Iowa's offense. Offense isn't very good, but it is one of those old school offenses that still utilizes the fullback. So they were without him. They lose their quarterback. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but Cooper DeJean actually led the team in interceptions. Did you catch on there?
He's really, really good.
They said that every time they brought it up on the broadcast. I know you guys said that 4 times now.
And now you've said it again.
Yeah.
And that's why you're attacking the new corner with Trey Palmer.
Right.
And Trey Palmer did win his matchups. I thought he could have won many more as well. But you've seen what a difference it was. What was it? Since the second half of the Illinois game, Nebraska didn't score for like 8 quarters. I mean, scored 1 touchdown in that time. And when he's comfortable in a rhythm and you give just a little bit of time, even against an Iowa defense, he's pretty good. And the connection as with Palmer, I hope those guys have conversations with the new coach, whoever that coach may be, to stick around, because I think you could adjust. I mean, Casey Thompson kind of fits most offenses that I've seen in college football. He's got the legs if you want to run it a little bit, and he's certainly got the arm strength, but that tandem between Trey Palmer and Casey Thompson is pretty good. It'd be nice to have them both come back next year. And that's one of the big conversations that I would have. He would like to think that Mickey's on that staff and maybe he can convince guys like that to stick around next year. Really makes you excited about the future of the offense, but that offensive line is atrocious.
Yeah.
It's just not, that's a little harsh, but it's just not good.
Yeah, and it's been kind of picked on all season too, I suppose. But and you don't like to focus on a few college players that aren't getting the job done. But it's obvious. Everybody, when we talk about the coaching search, everybody calls in and says, "Oh, you got to start off with those front lines," because anybody that knows football can watch Nebraska and say, they're just not there, especially on the offensive side. So that's an obstacle that Casey's kind of had to overcome all year long, and certainly in this game again. And for him, you got to remember, Iowa is very opportunistic when they get on that defensive secondary. I mean, they lead the nation in interceptions since 2017. They routinely are right up there, obviously, to get all that stat to stack up. And for Casey to finish behind that offensive line in the last 2 weeks with 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, something he's struggled to do in all the other games. There was only a couple other games where he was, was not a little bit turnover prone. He had 3-4 games this year where he threw two interceptions. So excellent game from Casey Thompson. I know Trey Palmer is going to get probably a lot of the attention, as he should, as he finishes his season now with 1,043 yards, the second Nebraska wide receiver to ever get 1,000 yards receiving, and the first one to get 1,043. So he's the new single season record holder. So at least another good thing other than beating Iowa comes out of this game, comes out of this season.
I think that, you could awards all around. Trey Palmer obviously had a record-breaking day for a Nebraska wide receiver, but the connection with he and Thompson was fantastic against one of the top 5 defenses in the entire country. Yes, they've had their injury problems, but Nebraska exploited them. And as much as I rip on Mark Whipple, he had some nice play designs today. He has ways to get number 3 open. When he's your best player, you'd like to get him the ball. And sometimes it gets frustrating as a fan when you know he's your best player and yet he doesn't get the ball. They made sure that they gave it to him in every way possible. He was fantastic today. So was Casey Thompson. I thought Washington made some good catches. Nebraska did enough. And as much as I pick on the offensive line, the pass protection wasn't terrible from time to time. Casey at least had time in most cases to see routes develop. And when he did have that time, he usually connected.
Yeah, and I'm usually a run the ball guy, but I think at this point in the season, especially with where they are, I think they need to kind of embrace that as a program. And I think if they do indeed hire Matt Rule, which has been reported that they're coming close to an agreement there, that would return. But this team, you built the team to kind of be a passing team. I mean, you brought in Mark Whipple, you brought in Casey Thompson, you brought in Trey Palmer. All this was kind of setting you up to be a passing team. And so that's what they had to embrace today. They came out, I think the first 5 plays they ran were passes. And again, I don't think that that's a great long-term type of plan, but for individually for winning, it can win a game here and there. And it did against Iowa today. It is just a little bit alarming still. They weren't able to get anything going. We actually saw a Ramir sighting for more than one play today.
And I thought he played really well.
Yeah.
And I love Anthony Grant. I think he's a really good player. Sometimes he gets caught, though, trying to go sideways a little bit. And Mickey has even pointed out in some of his pressers, the thing that I really like about Ramir, he's very fast, but he also hits the hole fast. He doesn't do a lot of dancing. He sees the hole, he darts to the hole, and despite the fact that he's probably only 180 pounds, quite, I'd say 20 pounds less than Anthony Grant, he hits the hole hard and moves a pile sometimes at the end of that pile. Those 3-4 yard runs, I thought, were very valuable for Nebraska throughout the day. No, they didn't run extremely well, but sometimes they just moved the pile enough where they weren't, in 2nd and 15, which you sometimes see Nebraska football teams. They did enough, I think, at times on the ground and burn enough clock to win the game.
Yeah, once again, 35 carries for 51 yards. Ramir leading the way in that category, 12 rushes for 52 yards. The team combined outside of him, with some of the sacks when combined for -1 yard. So
yeah,
that's
part of it.
That's what you have. Yeah. And it is. That goes back to the pass protection. We have Rudy waiting on the Honda of Lincoln hotline, eager to get his thoughts out. Rudy, how's it going? Rudy.
Rudy. If it were the actual Rudy, we definitely would have done that for sure.
All right, Rudy, give us a call back if you need to, or anybody is welcome to call 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline. It is a party because Nebraska has broken the streak.
Can I ask you a question, and all Husker fans out there, 464-5685, how many is this worth to you? Is it just it's a win over Iowa? And I know we've lost to them 7 straight, whatever it is. It's not that big of a deal. It's a nice win. Go Huskers. Or are you like this completes me for at least, for a while. Obviously, Nebraska is still not going to a bowl game. But we'll find out about a new coach, and maybe we see some semblance of a physical style. And you beat Iowa. How many wins is it worth to you?
I think it is worth probably a few. I wouldn't call out specific opponents. But it is, to me, that's been hanging over Nebraska. That's been the cloud hanging over Nebraska for quite some time, is Iowa and Wisconsin. Now, you still have work to do on the Wisconsin streak. But, we all, that's been part of the frustration for me. And it seems like, you go back to Sean Eichhorst and we have to evaluate where Iowa is and all that stuff. It's like Nebraska still wants to hire the guy or look to the guy that's going to get you over Ohio State. Meanwhile, ignoring the fact that Wisconsin and Iowa and, those weren't great teams this year, but the Minnesotas of the world, the Illinois now this year, are just too physical for you. And you can't do anything to get around it. And let's also, football styles aside, Nebraska has had this problem, and DP says it's the hardest thing to do in sports is to finish. Let's go ahead. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't pretty.
They finished.
It was scary.
They did what we asked.
They finally finished a game. I'm not saying they necessarily played well enough there at the end to win at times because he had the 24-0 lead. But ultimately, Chris Kolarovich gets the sack. Quentin Newsom, despite not getting the interceptions, was there for the knockdowns. I thought
Caleb Tanner had some big plays on defense.
Mathis was pressuring very much so in the second half. I thought he had one of his better games. Maga Clements had a sack for fumble. That
was one of the big things I thought about was, you don't have Nick Henrich. You don't have Luke Reimer in this game, and you have to play Maga Clements. And even you have the strip sack, which was big, and Garrett Nelson picks it up, and Nebraska ends up scoring, I believe, on that possession. But there's a guy that, you can't say that he would have been a big part of your linebacking crew. Maybe you did predict that in the spring. But I thought it would be a struggle with Vomog and Clemens in there for Reimer today. I was really concerned. He really stepped up and made some plays, a lot of plays.
Yeah, he stood out. In fact, a little bit more, I think, than Ernest Hausman today. Hausman has been doing great the last couple of weeks. Not to say he had a bad game or anything. It just seemed like Maga Clements, of course, with that forced fumble, kind of popped a little bit more. Let's, again, go to the Honda of Lincoln hotline. We have John waiting there. John, how are you doing?
Hello?
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Well, a win is a win is a win. It wasn't pretty at times, but it would be nice to be able to run the ball more and salt away the win earlier in the game. But Trey Palmer's a beast. I hope whatever happens, Mickey comes back, Trey comes back. We have pieces. Offensive line is still terrible. I mean, it played better, but you cannot run the ball at all when you need to. It's just, but it's a good way to finish the season out and to finally beat Iowa again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the call, John. And I think it's just, it feels like it's, I don't know how much, again, with the reports before the game about Matt Rule and Nebraska coming close, it is just kind of interesting. And of course, we'll dive into this throughout the offseason and just everything. But if Mickey was able to get a few more wins to build his resume, but this one feels like it's one for Mickey. This one feels like it's one for that team that's, again, struggled in this situation time and time and time again to finally break through. Again, too little too late to win the, to go to a bowl game, really to have a successful season or to, get Mickey Joseph probably the starting job, at least as we're reading the room right now. But it is a heck of a way to go to the offseason. And it is playing spoiler. Don't keep in mind. I mean, we think about this on Nebraska's side. Iowa's hurting right now. Yeah. Iowa wanted, it was a win away against a 3-win team to get to the Big Ten title game. And now they're, I would love to go to the Iowa message boards. I kind of saw it on Iowa Twitter there. They're a little bit more probably happy with the comeback and all that, but this was a disaster, somewhat of a performance from them. And a lot of things just went wrong for the Hawkeyes today, but Nebraska took advantage of it, ultimately getting the win. Tell you what, we got to take a quick break. We are going to party into the night, into the evening, as Nebraska has beaten Iowa. Huge win for the Husker program. We've got to take a quick break, but we'll be back here on the After Party Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling, check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check, 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 check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages. Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions. Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylane.com.
Sun Valley.
The World Cup is back, and Lincoln has great places to watch all the great soccer action. Rosie's downtown at 10th and P and Captain Jack's at 12th and P have teamed up with American Outlaws for watch parties to cheer on the USA. Matches go all week long, but make sure to stop by on Black Friday for USA versus England. Rosie's and Captain Jack's will both be open at 8 a.m. for the 11 a.m. match, and stick around to watch the Nebraska-Iowa game right after. It's the World Cup at Rosie's downtown and Captain Jack's with the American Outlaws.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man. If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at lincoln.com.
Reward yourself with Kasasa Free Checking. Liberty First Credit Union invites you to open a free Kasasa checking account and earn up to 3% APY for up to $30,000. Get paid for banking. What are you waiting for? Earning a high reward rate is easy, and Kasasa checking is always free. Liberty First Credit Union offers free online banking and bill pay, free e-statements, free mobile banking, and so much more. See libertyfirstcu.com for details. Federally insured by NCUA. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose.
Look at your car. It's filthy and probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Get it upgraded and repaired at Renew Your Auto. Get it upgraded and repaired. They offer tons of services. At Renew Your Auto, they offer tons of services: ceramic coating, window tinting, paintless dent repair, washes and details, bed liners, body shop, and more. Where can you go to get services like that all in one place? Schedule your appointment today at renewyourauto.com. See what Renew can do for you.
This is Megan Whitaker from the Nebraska golf team. If you've put your clubs away for the winter, it's time to get them back out. There's no need to stop thanks to Double Eagle Golf. Double Eagle is home to Lincoln's best indoor golf simulators. It's perfect for every level of golfer, with everything from casual games for the kids to hyper-realistic simulations of some of the best courses in the world. And the best part, no matter what the weather's doing outside, it's always golf weather inside. See for yourself. Double Eagle Golf, just 5 minutes from downtown at the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street.
Serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Another packed fall sports season means it's time to get to N Street Drive-In to fill up on all your beverage needs. For November, they have tons of fall seasonals, and you can check out their Oscar Blues, Nebraska Brewing Company, and Broken Bat Brewing Company selections as their beers of the month. Also, make sure to download the new N Street Drive-In app to order online and to set up delivery right to your front door. And don't forget their top-notch crowler fill system. Street Drive-In, your one-stop beverage stop at 1801 O Street.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Nebraska fans, Brokers Insurance Agency in Lincoln is a proud donor of Nebraska Athletics. Brokers Insurance Agency is located at 33rd and A Streets in the heart of Lincoln. At Brokers, they can help you with all your insurance needs. Let them worry about your insurance so you have more time to enjoy the college football season. Call one of their licensed agents today at 402-420-5353 or visit their website at brokersinsuranceNE.com. HuskerE.com. Go Big Red.
Back to the Husker After Party Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
The streak is dead. The streak is dead. Nebraska gets a win. A few different streaks, I suppose, are dead. Like you said, a 14-game win streak in November for Iowa. That's pretty impressive as a
Really
program.
impressive.
Breaks the 8-game losing streak in November for Nebraska. Not as impressive. And breaks the, 7-game losing streak to Iowa dating back to Bo Pelini. Man, it's been a while since Bo Pelini's been on the sidelines. And Nebraska hired 2 coaches in between that. Neither of them won, but Mickey Joseph did. So
when they fired Bo Pelini after beating Iowa.
That's right.
Because they had to consider where Iowa was, is what Sean Icor said. I consider that Iowa is a good football team. That's a good win today.
Yeah.
It might be the best win of the Frost era.
You're not wrong.
Seriously.
It probably is, actually.
Is that, would that be they beat Michigan State one year, 9-6, I believe.
Yeah, that was like a barely 500 team.
Yeah.
I think just by wins alone, I think this will be. So I think
isn't that sad?
It's pretty.
Think
sad.
about that. But it does. I asked the question earlier to you: how many wins is this worth to you? Because it feels like it's more than just a victory. It's a victory over Iowa. That's like 2 wins, or maybe 3 to some people.
Yeah, it feels that way after 7 straight times into the Rudy Bryan. We've got you on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. You can either hold tight because we've got a call we got to get to, or hang up and call back. But we do have Nick Sainert usually on the After Party Postgame Show. I shouldn't say usually, always, because he's here again. This time live from Kinnick Stadium. Nick, how are you doing?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Oh, we're feeling pretty good. Oh, no, we're pretty nervous for a while there, not gonna lie, but we're feeling pretty good.
That was a universal feeling, I think. I'm currently standing on the Hawkeye on the 50-yard line here at Kinnick Stadium, walking back and forth and watching Nebraska fans continue to celebrate with the team in the southeast corner of the stadium. I like the atmosphere here tonight, guys. You hear about Kinnick at night, but when you're in it, it's a whole nother feeling. Number one, number two, it was like a liberating win for Nebraska.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. It feels like it's a liberating win. And how weird it comes in Mickey Joseph's final game as the interim head coach. And I mean, you guys, I'm sure, have talked about it, will talk about it. I know a lot of Husker fans already know about it. I think there's a busy and interesting couple of days on the horizon here for Nebraska football fans.
Oh, absolutely. The reports are out there, and so we'll definitely get a little bit more to that, and maybe before the end of the interview real quick. But Nick, I know you don't have too much time, so I kind of want to get into the game. Before we do that, though, I did want to ask you, just because you've been there, how's the Hawkeye Wave?
Oh, that was one of the coolest things that I've kind of been a part of. In all honesty, so I was up in the press box. And it's super cool. I mean, everybody in the press box stands up, and every single person in Kinnick, including the visiting team, stand up and wave to it'd be the east side of the stadium to where the Children's Hospital is. It was really, really cool. Really, really cool. I know it's part of Iowa, but absolutely one of my favorite traditions in all of college football after being a part of it.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to be there. I did want to ask you too, what was, because I think the sideline reporter even mentioned it. It felt like the sideline for Nebraska was getting those Frost feelings again toward the end. Everything just kind of started to fall apart. What was the feel in the stadium? Because I thought it was kind of weird. We all know Iowa's offense, and it ultimately ended up being a close game, and Iowa had a couple drives to tie it there at the end. But Iowa was really getting into it once they scored. Like they're down 24-7 or even 24-14. It's like I still don't feel like there's enough time. But what was kind of the tide turning in the stadium certainly felt that way.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, guys. I mean, it was halfway through the third quarter, and Nebraska was up by 3+% possessions, and that feeling kind of started to creep in because Nebraska continued to try to run the football, and they just couldn't tonight. And that's just kind of an Iowa specialty, is being able to stop the run and being strong up front. With that being said, I did think that Nebraska's defensive front four got good pressure, especially when it counted at the end of the game. I don't know if you guys saw my video on Twitter. I talked to Bill Bush for about 15 seconds.
I didn't see that.
I found him in the mess after the game, and I said, Bill, what do you think about that? Like, give me one word for that. And he said, that's Black Shirts football. That is bleeping Black Shirts football. And then obviously it was announced that they're going to give them their black shirts back tonight after a win like this. They're going to give them back. They'll be in their lockers Monday morning, Mickey said. But who knows, maybe whoever the new coach is, maybe they get taken away again.
I guess maybe because it's Black Friday, you get back the black shirts, but there are no more games to be played. Maybe. It's a little weird, I think, but maybe a nice gesture on the part of Mickey as well. Nick, I got to ask you this.
I think also part of it, sorry to cut you off, Tom, but I think part of it also is like, that was the goal. That was one of the goals that this team had, was earn their black shirts back.
Yep.
And as it kind of puts a nice little bow on the season to say we beat Iowa and now we have finally accomplished the goal to where we get our black shirts back.
I agree. I mean, they're back and it's Black Friday, so it all works out really well. And you beat Iowa for the first time in 8 attempts. So that's good as well. To really enjoy this victory though, Nick, I'm going to need to know how miserable are Hawkeye fans.
They were pissed. They were pissed. So I moved down to the field and watched the final. Probably 4.5 or 5 minutes down from the field in the north end zone here at Kinnick, and there were a lot of Iowa fans obviously around us, and they were not happy when that pass got overturned and called incomplete. They were not happy. So. They were pretty pissed. They were pretty pissed.
Good.
They held on to the Heroes Trophy they didn't let Nebraska, the players have it. The fans that were sitting in the front row, I'm walking by where the Heroes Trophy stand was, and I remember seeing the Iowa fans in the front row holding on to the Heroes Trophy and not letting Nebraska players take it. And
That's
then obviously
funny.
when you get tons of those big men over here, they're not gonna the fans aren't gonna stand much of a chance.
Was it? I mean, because we were just watching from the game, but seeing it live.
Yeah.
Did Padilla have a lot of running room? He just never took off.
Yeah. Why did he not move? So I was sitting next to up in the press box. I was sitting next to Sean Callahan, and then I was sitting next to a guy from Iowa. And when Padilla went in, I should say, and Petrus went out, we were like, the Iowa guy turned to us and said, "Well, Padilla's more of a mobile quarterback, so that provides more of an option for Iowa's offense. That's pretty." Boring and simple. And Sean and I thought to each other, like, well, shoot, Nebraska doesn't do good against mobile quarterbacks or quarterbacks that can make, just even the basic play at times. And so then in the fourth quarter, when Padilla could have ran for, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, he decided to throw it, and it was a very inaccurate pass. It went out of bounds and eventually, played a part in Nebraska winning.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of strange because he is kind of known as the more of the runner of the two.
Yeah.
Did anything else kind of stand out to you? Kind of seeing the game live at Iowa. Any other thoughts?
I hate to be this guy, guys, but Mickey had this team ready. Like at the end of the day, I'm not a cult of Mickey. Like I'm not trying to say, oh nope, Nebraska needs to hire. I'm not here to do that. But it was very obvious from pregame stretches when I was on the sideline watching Mickey to throughout the entire game through now postgame. It was just, like I said, how I opened the phone call, liberating. It just seemed like finally they accomplished it. Mickey came in to the press conference room and said, we did the job. We asked them to finish it, start a job 11 weeks ago. He goes, not 5, not 6, 75 days ago, guys. Mickey Joseph took over as the interim head coach. This has been a long, grueling process. And I think, once again, at the end of the day, they were able to walk off Kinnick saying we beat Iowa for the first time since 2014. We were taking the Heroes Trophy back home. There's a lot of fans. There were a lot of Husker fans here that they were able to celebrate with. And I think, once again, the best descriptive word for it is liberating. It's a big, giant weight, I think. I joined when Tom was saying, how many wins does this count for? Obviously in the record books, it's going to count as one, but I think from a mental standpoint, from a closing out the season standpoint, this is a pretty big win, not only for Nebraska, not only for Mickey Joseph, for the players in that locker room, but then also just from a program standpoint. Like, we were sitting up there in the press box, guys, and I said out loud to Sean, and I was like, listen, like, this is a showing at the moment when it was 24-14. This is a showing that if Nebraska can't close out this game, of how bad, once again, their program is in a spot. It's how bad of a spot their program is. Because here they are again, 24-0 lead over the Iowa Hawkeyes, a team that has notoriously been poor on offense this season, and had their biggest comeback has been 21 points. Their biggest comeback that they've had this season has been by 3 points. I mean, once again, all of the odds are in your favor. And once again, you find a way to lose and find a way to not close it out. So we were saying that up there, but here they are. They got out of the way. They get some big, huge stops at the end of it when it's all said and done. And, I mean, I get the record is 4-8. I get there's a lot of change coming to Nebraska's program, and probably rightfully so. But for the time being, I think this one feels pretty good. And I wouldn't be surprised if downtown Lincoln celebrating accordingly.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are you going to play the villain role in Iowa City? Are you going to go out in the bars?
I would love to, but I am not.
No.
I'm coming home. I have a feel, like I said, I have a feeling there's a couple of busy days ahead of us for all of us here at the Ticket. So we need to, get our rest and get ready for what the future holds here in the next couple of days or weeks.
Yeah, and I know you
see Stipple slowly crawling across the Iowa field.
that's a cool sighting in and of itself.
I'm on the radio. I'm on the radio right now.
Hey, Sip's always
Put him on.
I was gonna say Sip's always welcome to.
Would you like Sipple on? No, Sipple says no.
Sipple says no.
He's got stories. Right. He's got stuff to do.
All right, before we let you go, Nick, I know you're in a little bit of a hurry. I did want to get your opinion on the reports that Matt Rule and Nebraska are closing in on a deal in the incoming days. Again, it's not initial feelings because it's kind of been weeks on and weeks off with Matt Rule. But what was your kind of gut reaction to the news?
Well, I would gut reaction to the news. Not surprised. So I need to be very specific of how I word this. I think Nebraska. I think things changed in the last couple of days with Matt Rule, to where Nebraska was in a better spot to basically sign Matt Rule to be the head coach. And so I think it's a good fit. Like, people forget that he took. I understand he didn't stay at Temple. I understand he wasn't, it wasn't longevity career type at Baylor or Temple or Carolina for that matter. But you forget what kind of spot the Baylor program was in when he took over that program. And you forget that he took them to a Sugar Bowl and had an 11-win season in year 3 with that program. And when we talk about what Nebraska fans are craving for, and guys, the way that Husker fans reacted when this one zeros, we haven't seen it. You haven't felt it. I've been in stadiums, you haven't felt it in years. And here with Matt Rule, you might not get it next year, and you might not get it the next 2 years, but at least that's somebody that's shown the ability to rebuild a program. And I think, here at the end of the day, is it a home run hire? That's subjective. Home run hire is a subjective term. But I think he's got some decisions to make regarding staff. I think he's got some very important decisions to make regarding personnel and athletes that he wants to keep on the team. So we'll see. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. But when we talk about what Nebraska needs as a program, although it might not be sexy or it might not be attractive, the kind of job that's going to need to be done here at Nebraska, I think Matt Rule is because you are a team that had a 3-9 season last year and backed it up with a 4-8 season this year and had an interim coach for 75 days. Nebraska's brand is still strong, yes, but it's what have you done for me lately? We live in that what have you done for me lately kind of society, and I think Matt Rule if it is him, with a pretty good get, considering the circumstances and considering the position that Nebraska's program is in. Now, with that being said, I kind of talked about it earlier, and I'll let you guys go because I want you guys to get on your show. And Tom, thanks for filling in for me. I really do appreciate it.
You bet.
But I sat here, and everything I saw from Mickey off the field, on the field through these last 75 days, he's done a hell of a job. It hasn't resulted in wins. It hasn't resulted in the outcome. But the way that he's handled himself through all of the awkward questions in the press conferences every Tuesday, through every single thing, Mickey's handled himself really, really well, really, really professionally. And I think part of that is because he knows that whatever happens, if he's at Nebraska, if he's somewhere else, he's going to be just fine because he's got a hell of a resume, and he said that in the postgame. But I think whoever the next head coach is, if you don't even give Mickey Joseph a chance, you're starting 1 foot back. I think you're starting 1 foot in the negative because the way that I saw that Mickey Joseph rallied the guys tonight, pre-game, during the game, post-game, and also the fan base. Like, the fan base was chanting his name at the end. And once again, guys, it's just something that you haven't felt in years and years. And it's a good night in Iowa City right now.
Yeah, Tom mentioned it earlier. It's probably the biggest win in the Frost era. So
yes, it is.
Now that he's out of the way.
How sad is that? How sad is that?
He's Nick Sander, live from Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City. Once again, Nick, thanks for the insight and have a safe trip home.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'll see you tomorrow or Sunday or Monday, I guess, whenever we find out.
Probably have a new coach by then.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, there he is. Nick Sainert walking across the Iowa Hawkeye in the middle of the field. That's pretty cool, too.
It made me think when we talked about that. It's the biggest win of the Mickey or the Frost era. Mickey Joseph just having that. It makes me feel that if had this been his program from the start of the year, this is a bowl team. The team that you're seeing over the last few weeks is a bowl team. The tackling has been pretty good, far better than what we saw early in the season. I think you would have beaten Georgia Southern. I think you would have gotten momentum, probably beaten a Northwestern, wins like that. I don't think you would have seen the collapse that you did, because it looked like this. There's no way to save the season, right? When Frost was fired after the Georgia Southern game, this season's over. Let's just try to prevent an avalanche. And it's been more than that from Mickey.
Yeah.
He stopped the avalanche.
Yeah, it's interesting. If they would have lost there at the end, would have a completely different tone. So it's always interesting how the ball bounces here and then. But I do agree. I mean, I don't know about with this staff in particular, but the idea of Mickey Joseph as a head coach for a season at Nebraska, so if he was able to put a staff together, I think you'd be pretty happy with the outcome, at least from where the program was where he took over. All right, let's take a quick break. Again, we'll get to your phone calls here on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. This is the After Party Postgame show here on 93.7 The Ticket, brought to you by Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical. Outstanding service by professionals you can trust. Your neighbors trust them. Why can't you? Call today at 402-423-6960 or go to actionlincoln.com. Also, Gary Michael Clothiers and Brandt Excavating helping us out with the post-game show this year. We'll take a quick break, get to your phone calls, and more thoughts here as the After Party rolls along.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly schedules a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest, quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
Hi, I'm Charlie Stone, and I'm back with Andy Goodyear, General Manager of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, you said to me earlier you have a lot going on at the dealership. Can you tell our listeners about it?
Sure can, Charlie. As I've said before, if you don't see a vehicle on our lot that you're looking for, it's probably on its way soon.
So, how many new Hondas do you have in stock or on the way?
We have a total of over 325, Charlie, with a great selection of Pilots and Ridgelines in stock right now.
Well, we have been talking about the Honda of Lincoln way of buying cars for several months. How is that going?
People love it. We're buying all makes and models, whether they purchase the car from us or not. I mean, really, it's a no hassle, and we will pay them cash on the same day.
Come experience the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Reward yourself with Kasasa. Liberty First Credit Union invites you to open a free Kasasa checking account and earn up to 3% APY for up to $30,000. Get paid for banking. What are you waiting for? Earning a high reward rate is easy, and Kasasa checking is always free. Liberty First Credit Union offers free online banking and bill pay, free e-statements, free mobile banking, and so much more. See libertyfirstcu.com for details. Federally insured by NCUA. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering designer furnishings, sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all makes Gary Michaels Clothiers Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
Hey, who caught that ball? That field goal was good, right? Is the scoreboard fuzzy to anyone else?
Dude, you have got to get your eyes checked, man. If you're noticing that the game is getting a little tougher to follow, it might be time for a checkup at Premier Vision. They have state-of-the-art equipment, a variety of frames, and great lens options. Visit Premier Vision today, just south of Van Dorn at 84th and Firethorn.
Hey guys, Nick Sadert here, and I want to tell you about my friends at Spine and Sports Chiropractic. I experienced a herniated disc in my lower back a few years ago, and thanks to the folks at Spine and Sports, I got back to feeling 100%. At Spine and Sports, they use the active release technique, which involves the soft tissue and can alleviate headaches, shoulder pain, plantar fasciitis, and more. What I like most about the ART method is that your doctor will construct a plan that fits your needs because the technique is not a cookie-cutter approach. Allow Spine and Sports Chiropractic to help you feel better. Set up your appointment today by giving them a call at 402-261-6841.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word. Live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
It's here, the day you've all been waiting for. Brown Shoe Fit's big Black Friday sale. We're offering 20% off store-wide, including 20% off the sale rack. We got Hey Dudes for 25% off, and Smartwell socks are still buy 3, get 1 free. So come on down to Brown Shoe Fit for our big Black Friday sale all weekend long. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. Brown Shoe Fit Company, on the corner of 66th and Q. You're in Lincoln.
Are you looking for some holiday fun right in the heart of downtown Lincoln? Bring your friends and family to Lincoln's largest drive-through Christmas lights experience. This show features countless high-quality lights in vibrant colors, holiday props, and favorite characters of the season, all synchronized to music to enjoy in your car. Start a new holiday tradition this year and experience the magic of Nebraska Christmas Light Show at Haymarket Park from November 26th to January 3rd, 5 p.m. to midnight. Purchase tickets today at NebraskaChristmasLightShow.com.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associate with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Look at your car. It's filthy and probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Don't be that guy. Get it upgraded and repaired at Renew Your Auto. At Renew Your Auto, they offer tons of services: ceramic coating, window tinting, paintless dent repair, washes and details, bed liners, body shop, and more. Where can you go to get services like that all in one place? Schedule your appointment today at renewyourauto.com. See what Renew can do for you.
Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out.
It is a party here on Black Friday, the after party to the Nebraska-Iowa game where Nebraska comes out the victor finally after 7 straight losses to the Hawkeyes. Nebraska wins 24-17 in a fashion that would make your heart jump a little bit there at the end, but still a 24-0 lead that Nebraska built in order to get the victory today. Very exciting game. We'd like to thank our post-game show sponsors, Gary Michaels Clothers. Look your best today at one of America's top 5 tailored clothing retailers. Gary Michaels brings top brands and designs to Nebraska. It's located next to the Zipline Beer Hall at 56th and Pine Lake Road. Also brought to you by Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, and Brand Excavating. We will have DP here in just a second, but first we want to get to your calls real quick as you've been waiting on the line. Brian, how's it going? I know you've been waiting patiently. How are you feeling after the Huskers' victory?
Hey guys, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I didn't know how to feel. I'm not used to win, so I'm totally surprised.
Yeah, that's certainly understandable. What are you thinking today?
Well, I'm thinking good. I mean, overall with the game, I mean, we came out explosive, and kind of we're the aggressors, which is great, and I love that. And towards the end of the game, though, I was a little bit scared, obviously, but I want to talk a little bit towards like our future and everything. I mean, what do you think about Bill Bush? I mean, everybody talks about Mickey, which I do love Mickey, staying on the staff and everything, but Bill Bush and he's been calling great defense since he's been on. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. I think that's the third time that he's had a half that's a shutout in Big Ten play so far. So, I mean, that's really impressive. And from where the defense that he took over, everybody talks about the mess that Mickey took over. The problem, the main problem was the defensive side, and it has been incredible. It's weird though, and I don't know if it's maybe you can bring Mickey back, maybe we can bring Bill Bush back, both of them. But you want to be careful not to tell the next coach you have to do this, you have to do that. So I'm sure they'll get their interviews and maybe they'll decide. You just don't usually see 2 or 3 coaches from a previous step. The weird scenario here is these coaches kind of just joined, at least for Bill, in a full-time role, so they're not necessarily, maybe they don't have that frost stink on them. But I don't know. It's a very good point because it's probably not talked about enough.
It feels like Mickey is staying, right? If Mickey wants to stay, I think he has a really good chance to stay. Outside of that, you could find a place, I would think, on your staff for a guy like Bill Bush.
Yeah.
Because if he's not your defensive coordinator, he could be your special teams coordinator because that's what he was at the start of the year. And Nebraska got it better, way better in both those categories this year. The other one I would say is Brian Applewhite. That might have a chance to stick around. I think a very good recruiter, especially in Texas. If it were somebody like Matt Rule, he'd probably want somebody who can recruit Texas. That would be Applewhite. So we'll see. I think Mickey has got a job locked at the University of Nebraska if he wants it. Everybody else, I don't know.
Yeah, and it'll be certainly interesting to follow in the next couple of days. It's not just the head coach that's announced, and you kind of go through. I mean, the transfer portal is going to be there. That's going to be insane. But, filling out that staff is going to be kind of fun to look out for. But let's bring in DP live from Orlando. He was pulling double duty today as he was watching Nebraska basketball take on Memphis. By the way, updating that game if you weren't paying attention. Memphis did win 73-61. Also, Nebraska volleyball taking on Wisconsin with Big Ten title implications. So there's a lot going on in Husker land, but we'd like to welcome on DP. DP, were you able to watch much of the Husker football game?
Every single snap.
Perfect.
It was an interesting thing that happened. I looked up from courtside, and for all of the Husker Nation that was there watching the basketball game, I would say 70% had their phones out watching the football game as well. So the reactions were across the board. It was pretty much as you expected. And then, there was the moment on the interception where the basketball team fully accepted that something good had happened in football land because the Husker fans were cheering in spite of them being down 10 at the time. So, every play, enjoyed every second of it. It's what Big Ten football is supposed to be. And I'm just here to celebrate the breaking of the streak. Ding dong, the streak is dead.
Well, you were partners with me. It's been a while since Nebraska had beaten Iowa. 7 straight times they had lost to Iowa before they lose to Iowa. How big of a deal is this? You know rivalries pretty well. How big of a deal is it to break through for Husker Nation, in your opinion?
I don't know why anybody would not be, who's truly a fan a Husker fan. And I don't mean the folks who sit on the edge and like to stir up chaos. I'm not talking about those who are just pissed off at life and don't like themselves. But for Husker fans, if you bleed that bright red that folks talk about in the scarlet and cream, then tonight you're celebrating. You'll let whatever happens tomorrow happen. But for this program to break, people talk about program being cursed. There is a way for Nebraska to be successful at football in a meaningful game at the end of the season. You knock down your neighbor, you knock down your rival, you get a nice cup to go with it, and it gives you something other than a bitter taste in your mouth to carry with you tonight. Now, tomorrow, it'll be a different conversation and different words and different topics. But tonight, it should be, and it's just me, as somebody that's become vested in Husker athletics and Husker football. It's a night to celebrate. Even in Orlando, Husker Nation is celebrating. There's probably 150 Husker fans who are giving hugs in the ESPN Center tonight. So that's where I stand on it. It was great. You got record-breaking performances. Shout out to Caleb Tanner for playing the most career games in history. Shout out to Trey Palmer for breaking the all-time reception yardage record. Kudos and backpacks. Pat on the backs to the linebackers who stepped up when Heinrich and Reimers didn't play, and Kolarvik makes the play to save the day. To the offensive line to actually figure out, ways to protect Casey Thompson as best they could. And then to the coaching staff, for them to finish by doing a thing that no coach has done since 2014, which is beat Iowa and beat a team that was playing for their share of the Big Ten West title and an invitation to the Big Ten Conference Championship. Nebraska went to their turf, to their building, in front of their fans, and snatched all of it away. As we like to say, thanks for inviting me to your party. I will drink all your booze and take all your girls. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Well
I did want to ask you, too, because you mentioned there briefly, Maga Clements. I mean, he ended up leading this game with 7 tackles for the Nebraska side, a sack and tackle for loss, 4th fumble there. A guy that's waited his whole career, never had a start. He's a senior playing his last game as a coach. To see him respond the way that he did, how special do you think that is? Just in the linebacker room, or just kind of the coaching staff overall? I mean, that's one that he's not going to forget for a while.
I would be surprised, having been in those rooms where something like tonight happens. There's tears, there's finality because there's no bowl game. A lot of folks. This was the last time that this roster and this staff, as they stand, will ever be together. Like, this is the last time they're ever going to take the field or come off the field. They're going to ever have an end result. And for them to go through what they've gone through, to go through pandemics and transfer portals and NIL and lost jobs and change of coaching staff and change of roster, and then to find a way to come together and do the one thing that every Husker fan wanted, which was just to finish a game the way they practice. Like, there are tears in that locker room. There'll be tears on the bus on the way back. There'll be tears when they gather and go through cleaning out their locker room, because they're going to stand there, they'll breathe it in, they'll look around, and one final time they'll say, look what we did. We did a good thing. And they haven't had enough of those moments for this one not to hit real heavy.
Yeah, and I did want to ask you too, and it is mostly positive thoughts as the streak is broken and all that. I did want to ask, because one critique about the game is that Iowa did get back into it after the 24-0 lead. Do you think there's a lesson learned walking away from that? Maybe did they play not to, that old phrase, that they play not to lose rather than to win the game, or what do you think kind of happened in the comeback for Iowa before Nebraska closed the door on it?
That's for fans and skeptics. Players and coaches don't care. Your mission was to go 1-0 today. Your mission was to win the game. All the rest of the stuff is conversation and narrative for other people. Your job is, when the scoreboard ends, to have more points than your opponent. They don't care when you don't get extra points for when you score them. You don't get fewer points for when they score theirs. At the end of the day, you wanted to beat Iowa. That was the mission. That was the hashtag. That was the sole purpose. Bravo. They beat Iowa. Don't care how they did it.
All right, and before we let you go, too, I did want to get your thoughts on the basketball game because not a lot of us, at least my attention was more on the football game, so I have to watch that basketball game. But I know they ended up losing 73-61. The other day, you were talking about how Memphis shops at different stores than many teams around the country as far as the athletes that they get. How did the basketball team look today?
Well, I mean, the top story is the return of Derek Walker. He has to grind and he'll be the conductor for this team. He'll get it in and out of situations. Of course, he's got to get in playing shape. Not having been out there. Memphis threw 3, 6'11" and taller bigs at him to create chaos. Keisei Tamanaga once again stepped up and shown that he will be able to help them. They've got some guys. Griesel struggled a little bit in just getting shots to the bucket, but that's what happens when you get 7-footers that can block shots out there. They competed both, a 12-point loss and 10-point loss to Oklahoma and Memphis is nothing to be ashamed of. They're battling, they're gritty, but tomorrow Sunday they've got a legitimate shot. The Florida State team is tall, they're athletic, they've got a 6'7" center who's athletic. They've got great defenders on the perimeter. They shoot the ball well, but they also give up some easy buckets, which is how Stanford beat them today, was just getting trash buckets, putbacks, a ton of, 8 and 10 footers. If Nebraska's bigs can take advantage of that, they got a shot at getting a win on Sunday. Look, they play hard, which is what you want to see for a group that's learning themselves. They're 3-3. Get a chance against a Florida State team that's gone 0-2 down here as well. So, look, it's a fair shot. But Derek Walker being back will change this team and give them opportunity to be better.
Yeah, I can't wait for Sunday to see if they can close out of their trip down there with a victory. DP, I don't know if you're in a hurry or if you'd like to stick around, or it's kind of up to you.
Well, I'm gonna hang out. You guys, if you need me, just text back. I'll jump back on.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, DP, live from Orlando, giving us thoughts on Husker football and Husker basketball. We are up against a break here, so we'll go ahead and let you go, DP, for now, and might give you a call back here in a little bit if we start running out of topics.
I'll be here.
All right. Thanks, DP. There he goes, DP there. Any thoughts on did you get a look at any of the basketball?
I didn't see a ton of it. And Nebraska was hanging around. I noticed that they have the same problem. It seems like it's that some of the Danny Nee teams had and some of the Hoiberg teams had. There was 9 minutes left to go, or 10 minutes left to go in the first half, and they had 9 points.
Yeah, slow start again. Yeah.
Another slow start offensively. They picked it up a little bit. They shot 43% from the game. That's not great. They struggle from the free throw line. They didn't shoot 37% from three-point land today. And Tamanaga had a nice game. And Derek Walker is back. He had 15 points for Nebraska. He was 7 of 11 from the field. He's a huge difference maker for this team. But I just worry about their shooting. They just seem to go into slumps for 7-8 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
And they can beat anybody, I think, on the schedule if they can shoot anywhere close to 50% and make some free throws. I think, and that includes some of the better teams, I think, in this league, the Big Ten.
Yeah, the free throws have been a problem so far today, 8 of 11, so not as much today. Again, like DP was saying, I think it's kind of a team you might expect to kind of feel itself out for a while. So 10 12-point losses to Oklahoma and Memphis, not bad at this point in time, but you don't want to be the only team to go to the ESPN Invitational without a victory, and that's what's on the line on Sundays. So.
Like you said, they've got a real shot against Florida State. Florida State normally an NCAA team, but they're really struggling right now. That's not a good start for Florida State. That team is struggling. Nebraska has a chance to beat them.
All right, it's a weird day, a little bit of Husker basketball. Once again, Husker volleyball playing as well. They're down in the first set, 18-12 to Wisconsin. But we'll continue to take your calls here. Don is on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Don, how's it going? What are your thoughts from today's game?
Well, first, thanks for asking. Things are going good. Nice weather. I have a question for fans, and this is like maybe blasphemy even to ask this question. wonder how many fans in the waning moments of this game were disappointed that Iowa didn't get that reception on the sideline, or were rooting for Iowa to pull this thing out. It is an inexplicable thing for me to see as a fan for the last 32 years, to watch the team literally have the most prevent offense. Yeah, if I was going to write a book called "Here's How You Let a Team Come Back," last 2 games Nebraska's done it. So whoever's making these calls, whoever's calling these plays, they need to go. And I know that's stating the obvious here at the end of the season, but I have a friend of mine I was on the phone with watching the game, and he began to refer to "we" as in Iowa.
Yeah,
it was shocking to watch.
Yeah, thanks for the call there, Don. That is certainly part of the game. As DP says, ultimately the end score is what they're going to be celebrating in the locker room there. But I do think there are some lessons to be taken away from maybe letting the foot off the gas there toward the end.
Yeah, the Nebraska started really aggressively. They marched right down the field. In fact, the opening drive, it was quick, no huddle. Nebraska, it looked like this early Scott Frost era. They were lining up and going. And I liked it. And then they missed a field goal once they got in field goal range, 33-yarder. But they kind of continued the aggressive attitude, 87-yard touchdown to Palmer. They get another one, 17-0 at halftime. I like that aggressive attitude, but you kind of look at the clock at that point. You think, man, if we don't turn the ball over, once we get up 24-0, if we don't turn the ball over and we're not completely idiotic in the way we play, we're going to be able to melt enough clock to win this game. And that's what they did. Yeah, they went into a little bit of a shell, but that's kind of how Iowa beats you, is when you force a pass into double coverage, it gets picked off, and Nebraska still kind of did that anyway with the turnover. The Ramir Johnson fumble was a big one. Iowa gets it. They're able to get a field goal out of it after Quentin Newsom dropped a couple of passes.
Yeah.
That's something that happens to Nebraska that never happens to Iowa, dropping passes, and Nebraska dropped like 3 of them today. And then Chris Kolarvik makes the big interception at the end. In fact, I was thinking about this. If I would have told you that Ernest Hausman at this point of the year is probably Nebraska's best linebacker, and that Chris Kolarvik and Vamaga Clemens would win the Iowa game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that never would have happened with Scott Frost. And that's where I give Mickey Joseph credit. He's a next man up guy, but he actually gets the next man up to play pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think that's coaching. I really do think that's coaching.
All right, before we get to break, let's go to Jeff on the Honda of Lincoln hotline. Jeff, what are your thoughts tonight?
Oh, anytime you can take the fake eyes, clock eyes, whatever they're called, and knock them down, it's great. I don't know why. I know you guys are all pro Mickey. I love Clements. Clements stepped up. He makes plays. But we played not to lose yet again. When we're 3-8, and almost lost the game because of that. It's like it's time to move on. I'm ready to move on. Awesome win, love the win, but let's go on to the next step, and hopefully Mickey can stay on as a great recruiter, great wide receivers coach, and go Big Red.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the call.
Is this starting to sound like we lost the game a little bit? I mean, Nebraska beat Iowa for the first time in 8 tries. No, it wasn't pretty, but I kind of assumed that would be the case. This team doesn't know how to win. If anybody's arguing that Nebraska knows how to win just because they won today, that's probably not the case, because they did try to give that game away at times, but they didn't. And when they needed to play, Chris Kolarvik stepped up, or maybe you could say that it wasn't so much to Nebraska. It was really bad quarterback play by Iowa, and you can make that argument, and I could agree in part. But they won the game. It was an ugly win, but that's kind of what Mickey had that comment last week about trying to look more like other Big Ten teams.
Yeah,
that you're
that's
trying to beat.
Look like.
That's what they look like.
Yeah.
It was really ugly, and they won 24-17.
Let's talk about that a little bit more here. We got to take a quick break here on the After Party Postgame Show, brought to you by Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating. We'll be right back.
Trendy or traditional, Gary Michaels Clothiers specializes in men's tailored clothing. Off the rack or custom made to measure, there is simply no better shopping experience. Offering furniture sportswear, shoes, outerwear, and accessories for a man always concerned at looking his best. With world-class tailoring and personal service, all made Gary Michaels Clothiers, Nebraska's premier store for men. Come visit us now at Village Gardens, south of 56th and Pine Lake Road in Lincoln.
It's here, the day you've all been waiting for. Brown Shoe Fit's big Black Friday sale. We're offering 20% off store-wide, including 20% off the sale rack. We got Hey Dudes for 25% off, and Smartwell socks are still buy 3, get 1 free. So come on down to Brown Shoe Fit for our big Black Friday sale all weekend long. Some exclusions may apply. See store for details. Brown Shoe Fit Company on the corner of 66th and Q. You're in Lincoln.
Get an immediate look back at the game from the people who know it best. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word live from Tanner's Bar and Grill at 30th and Yankee Hill. Hear from former players and national champions like Jay Foreman, Rashawn Jackson, and Aaron Davis and see what they saw in that day's game. It's the Tanner's Postgame Show and the Final Word, live and in person, home or away at Tanner's Bar and Grill, brought to you by Bauer Infrastructure. Only here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Look at the car. It's filthy and probably has a few dings and nicks all over it. Don't be that guy. Get it upgraded and repaired at Renew Your Auto. At Renew Your Auto, they offer tons of services: ceramic coating, window tinting, paintless dent repair, washes and details, bed liners, body shop, and more. Where can you go to get services like that all in one place? Schedule your appointment today at renewyourauto.com. See what Renew can do for you.
Are you looking for some holiday fun right in the heart of downtown Lincoln? Bring your friends and family to Lincoln's largest drive-through Christmas lights experience. This show features countless high-quality lights in vibrant colors, holiday props, and favorite characters of the season, all synchronized to music to enjoy in your car. Start a new holiday tradition this year and experience the magic of Nebraska Christmas Light Show at Haymarket Park from November 26th to January 3rd, 5 p.m. to midnight. Purchase tickets today at NebraskaChristmasLightShow.com.
Reward yourself with Kasasa Free Checking. Liberty First Credit Union invites you to open a free Kasasa checking account and earn up to 3% APY for up to $30,000. Get paid for banking. What are you waiting for? Earning a high reward rate is easy, and Kasasa checking is always free. Liberty First Credit Union offers free online banking and bill pay, free e-statements, free mobile banking, and so much more. See LibertyFirstCU.com for details. Federally insured by NCUA. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $24.11 per hour, which grows to $28.27 per hour within 3 years. Skilled trade positions now start at $32.76 per hour with opportunities to make more based on certifications. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates with increased bonuses and vacation for new hires. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Lincoln's best place to meet, eat, and compete.
Bowling, check. Arcade, check. Laser tag, check. Mini golf, check. Sand volleyball, cornhole, bocce, food, drinks, check, 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 check. The newly renovated Sun Valley Lanes and Games has something fun to offer for guests of all ages.
Win prizes in the arcade or challenge your friends in one of the many attractions.
Plan a night of fun by reserving your spot online at sunvalleylanes.com.
Sun Valley.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric brings exciting career opportunities for you or someone you know. They are now hiring plumbers, electricians, and HVAC techs and installers to continually build their professional team. They offer competitive pay and full benefits packages that include health, dental, vision, PTO, and 401k options. Action has created a positive team environment for over 50 years. Apply online at actionlincoln.com.
Hey guys, Nick Sadert here, and I want to tell you about my friends at Spine and Sports Chiropractic. I experienced a herniated disc in my lower back a few years ago, and thanks to the folks at Spine and Sports, I got back to feeling 100%. At Spine and Sports, they use the active release technique, which involves the soft tissue and can alleviate headaches, shoulder pain, plantar fasciitis, and more. What I like most about the ART method is that your doctor will construct a plan that fits your needs because the technique is not a cookie-cutter approach. Allow Spine and Sports Chiropractic to help you feel better. Set up your appointment today by giving them a call at 402-261-6841.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Back to the Husker Afterparty Postgame Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Well, guys, we're gonna give them all their black shirts back unless somebody else who's gonna have to deal with it. But we're gonna give them all their black shirts back. But yeah, I trusted what they've been doing. They've been playing lights out for the last couple of weeks, so we trust that we could put them back on the field and they was gonna get a stop. Well, I'll probably get them back tonight when they get back, but it'll be in their lockers when they come in on Monday.
There you have it, Mickey Joseph announcing the black shirts are back just in time for Monday. Yeah, I'm not really sure what it's going to be.
I think I thought it was a symbolic move that I'm going to give them back to you when I can trust you. I can trust you. Sorry, the season's over, but now I can trust you. So here they are. It's more symbolic, obviously.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to poke at.
The black shirts have gotten a little silly. I mean, let's face it, Nebraska's not an Iowa defense. That's a really good defense. If they had an offense to go with it, they'd be top 15 team in the country. But Nebraska, compared to where they were against Northwestern or Oklahoma or Georgia Southern early in the season, 600 yards is given up consistently, couldn't stop any sort of a leak. And Nebraska's defense, yes, Iowa's offense is terrible. And Kirk Ferentz is going to have to fire his son, which makes me laugh and enjoy the victory even more. Because I don't really like Brian Ferentz. I think he's kind of a jerk. And I think Kirk is kind of a jerk as well. And they're all millionaires, so it doesn't really matter. But he's going to have to fire his son because that is a disaster.
Well, I think it might come out as a mutual parting. But you're right. I think ultimately.
Right. But how's that going to go at Christmas? Mom, he can't fire me. Come on.
Kirk, don't fire your son.
Don't fire your son.
Kirk.
And he's got I think Kirk has a $40 million buyout. So they're not firing Kirk Ferentz.
No, unless he retires, which there was some talk.
They
about
might
that
negotiate
earlier.
some sort of buyout.
Yeah, which I don't see that happening either. But I mean, they certainly got to do something with that offensive coordinator. This is the After Party Postgame Show here on 93.7 The Ticket, brought to you by Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothing, and Brandt Excavating. Find your next career today at Brandt Excavating, who's served Nebraska for over 20 years. They're hiring for CDL drivers, equipment operators, and truck equipment mechanics, and they have fantastic benefits. Apply today at BrandtExcavating.com. Excavating, that's always a fun word to say anyway.
It is.
I'll throw that out there as well. We got a few more quotes here from Mickey Joseph. And also the man of the day, Trey Palmer, who set the record at Nebraska for single season receiving yards today. He needed about 122, I think, coming into the game. Ended up with 165 yards, 2 touchdowns on 9 catches. So very good stuff there. So let's hear from Trey Palmer here after the game. This was one requested from our this one apparently is pretty funny. So we'll see what Trey Palmer had to say. This is his reaction to Casey Thompson here.
I don't know. I'm just going day by day. Casey Thompson.
So he's having fun with it. Let's see if he knew about the record breaking that he had.
I mean, to be honest, I really didn't know I broke it. I was just playing ball, trying to get a dub.
There you have it. Do you believe it, or do you know? Maybe he's got his. I like that answer, but
he's got swagger, doesn't he?
I mean,
that story came out in the spring. Just they were scrimmaging sometime. I think it was in the spring. And Trey just says, throw it up, coach. Come on, just throw it up. I'll go get it. He has that confidence about him. And Mickey had said to the reporters, the BTN folks, that he thought it was all about matchups. Trey had a matchup similar to what he had versus Purdue, where he set the receiving record. And today he sets the season receiving record. He's the best wide receiver talent-wise I've seen at Nebraska since, I don't know, Irving Fryer. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Talent. I mean, you can talk about other productive wide receivers, Stanley Morgan, Kenny Bell, those types. They did not have the athletic ability that he does. And he's so fluid. He runs by people, and he doesn't look like he's running.
Yeah, very, very, very fast. Here is Mickey Joseph on Trey Palmer and the use of his speed.
Well, Trey, we thought they was going to have trouble guarding Trey. And we just talked to Trey this morning. Just use your speed. Don't tiptoe through it. Put speed on them and see if they can cover you. And Trey did a really good job of running by him and catching the football.
And he caused a couple of pass interferences as well. I mean, you get to the point where you're guarding a guy like that, a Justin Jefferson, a Trey Palmer, where you just start grabbing him. And he was grabbed several times that kept drives going. And the penalties, man, Iowa was not good in that department. That did not only turnovers, but the penalties. They look like a team like Nebraska has looked over the Frost era, basically. That did not look like a Kirk Ferentz team. They did not play well at all, but Nebraska had something to do with it. Trey Palmer was a big reason. Obviously, he couldn't be guarded. We knew that they were suffering in the secondary coming in, and Nebraska picked on him because of it.
Yeah, it was certainly, there's a few games that are going to stand out for him, and it's going to be interesting now too, because I think that there's going to be some NFL scouts. It feels like he's kind of had a whirlwind and up and down season as far as his draft status goes. With the new coach coming in, all that sort of stuff. Going to be one of the biggest, we always talk about recruiting and who they're going to bring in. Sometimes it's recruiting your own players, and Nebraska's got a lot of that. This is a younger team, a lot of guys with decisions to make. If it is Matt Rule or whoever it may be, to recruit some of those guys back, maybe the biggest difference in getting a good season going next year.
I would talk to Ernest Hausman to know what he's thinking. I know he's only a freshman, but that guy's a superstar. I think he's an all-conference type of player. Definitely talk to Casey, see where he's going. I think he would fit into most any offense. Trey Palmer would be way up the list. He's your best player. Let's face it. Trey Palmer is the best player on this football team. He's worth an extra probably touchdown every game. I mean, he's that good. I mean, even games where he doesn't score a touchdown, he's somebody that you have to be so aware of. That you can beat teams in other ways, just using him in some cases as a decoy. But you're right. We're in that era, the NIL era, where you have to recruit your own team. But those are the first three guys that I would start with.
Yeah, and I mean, you throw in, the Garrett Nelsons, the O'Shawn Mathis who walked, even on that defensive side of the ball, maybe a Quentin Newsom. I don't think he'd be ready to go yet, but I mean, I think he's going to have a chance down the line. So it's going to be. It's going to be a wild off season, and we're going to get ready for it. But again, first, let's keep the focus on tonight for now, as Mickey Joseph again was at the podium. I got a few more bites that I wanted to play. One here that'll just appease the fans.
Oh, listen to me. You're right. I forgot these fans. These fans are unbelievable, and I appreciate their support for me and the team. And they came out tonight in numbers, and they were screaming, they were yelling, and I'm glad we was able to get that win for them. But the fan base, we have the best fan base in America. And I think everybody knows that.
There you have it. We are number one, at least according to Mickey Joseph.
Sellout streak is still alive. And if you would have told me if Nebraska would have gone 4-8 this season, would the sellout streak still be alive? However, whatever they're doing, they've kept that surviving. So that's a miracle in that, to me it is. And so now you'll be more excited with the announcement of a new coach. We don't expect it to be Mickey Joseph, but I do think that he should certainly get a pay raise, whatever he needs, in that department, and keep him. And we all know that he's a guy that would be a great conduit to any head coach because he has the pulse of this team.
And I think the secret is going to be out on that. Like I said all along, he's going to get a few calls. So I think you're going to have to give him.
You're going to have to pay him.
You're going to have to pay him if you're going to want to keep him. Here's Mickey Joseph on his thoughts on the coaching status right now.
I don't think that's up to me. I think that's up to the next guy. I'm good because I understand the next guy comes in, he deserves to pick his staff, and I'm good with it. Like I've been over this thing over 25 plus years, and I got a pretty good resume, so somebody's gonna hire me.
Yeah,
I think so.
Not worried about it.
I really thought he had a chance if he beats Minnesota, and Minnesota in the Wisconsin game, very similar, where you felt like you had control, and then the offensive line starts to lean on you. I was worried that scenario would happen again today because you saw Iowa get a big run for a touchdown. You think Kika Johnson was it that had the 44-yard run for a touchdown, and I thought now those 3 and 4 yard runs are starting to become more chunk plays for Iowa, and I thought the same scenario might take place that took place against Minnesota and Wisconsin, but it
might have if they were down by a little less, like with time wise.
Nebraska had 24-point lead,
right,
and they needed every inch of it.
Iowa was starting to run the ball pretty well. You're right. And they just had to pass to get back in the game. But if they had, if they were down 17 or, if they had 5 more minutes, that might have changed the way that they approach it. So I think that's a good point. Here's what Mickey Joseph on what he's learned from coaching.
Well, I think what I learned on this job is that I had to be a good person in front of being a good coach, because that's the only way these kids and these coaches are going to believe in me, if I was a good person. And I think that happened. And usually, the Joseph boys, we're good people, and that's why these kids was able to follow me.
That's really cool to hear. Again, Mickey Joseph, I learned this throughout the season too, with doing teammates, is that when Tom Osborne started the teammates mentoring program, he had 22 guys raise their hand that wanted to be a part of it in that locker room. Mickey Joseph was one of the first group of teammates.
Oh, I didn't know that story.
Yeah. So, and that alone does not make you a good person, but it makes you a pretty good person, I think.
Just when you hear him talk, when you see him talk, you don't think he's BSing you.
Yeah.
It feels like Mickey being Mickey. You can kind of understand why he's such a great recruiter. He has the ability to relate to anyone in any room. And it's not one of those guys that would talk your ear off. Although I think he can do that. He has the gift of gab. Certainly good recruiters have that. It just feels like he means what he says, and he says what he means. There's not a lot of glitz and glamour to Mickey. It's what you see is what you get, and I don't think he's trying to screw with anybody.
Somebody off the text line, a man named Ashley, in fact, says got to talk to AJ Allen. That's another guy that would get some attention if he were.
And then so maybe you have to keep Brian Applewhite, the guy that seems to recruit all those guys.
We're just going to talk ourselves into keeping most of the staff. I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Why do we need a new coach?
How would you rank them? You'd go Mickey and then Bush, right?
I think so. Yeah, because of the recruiting prowess. But I gotta tell you, Bush is the primary reason behind Mickey's argument to be head coach.
Right. I mean, and you could make an argument for Travis Fisher. I mean, that guy is a pretty good defensive back coach. I mean, Bo Rude is well liked. So Sean Beckton has been a nice in between for some of the coaches on the staff. So I think there's a decision to make for the next head coach. And assuming it's a guy like Matt Rule, he's obviously got a lot of connections, and he's going to want to bring in a lot of his own guys. That's just the way it works. I mean, if I do a radio show, I want to have Bach on my show. I want to have Strick on my show. I want to have the guys I know and trust doing it with me. So I get that. I mean, anybody that is hired, for the most part, wants their own staff. But I think Mickey makes a pretty good case for staying on the staff. Outside of that, you're probably just guessing.
Yeah, and I think too that it has to be remembered that Mickey, one, did not come into this year. He's an associate head coach. All of this was kind of probably planned, and that might happen as the emergency plan. But it's not like there's been this feeling, I guess, spoken on behalf of Mickey from Mickey supporters that this would just be very much a slap in the face if he doesn't get the job. That's not the case. He hasn't been a head coach at this level for a long time. Now that he's got 3 Big Ten wins underneath him, I'm assuming I think there's going to be some calls made. I think that it's be really nice to keep him. It really would. But I don't think you'd keep him for the next 10 years. I mean, he's going to be a hard guy that's not going to progress upward throughout his career. So I think that there's a bit of a chance that a Bo Pelini type of thing happens where, you circle back and get him at some point, because I think he's just going to keep moving on. Now, hopefully you can keep him as long as you can. Hopefully the new coach will want him and will see his value. And I think that's obvious, but I don't think Trev can go, if it is Matt Rule, to Matt Rule and say, hey, you're keeping Mickey, and then you can fill out your staff from there. You got to give him the chance. Say, hey, Mickey's done really well for us. We think he could give you a lot. And if Matt Rule or whoever it is looks at his resume, understands what he's doing with the connections with in-state recruiting, that Trey, he was here for 1 year, and Trey Palmer broke wide receiver records season-wise and in game-wise. I mean, he's got some things that are going to pop on his resume, like he said. So he'll be fine. I just don't know if he's going to be a lifetime Husker like we'd all want him to be. But he might circle back at some point.
Well, if it's a Matt Rule, I mean, the clues that we sometimes get or have gotten over the last couple of weeks is it feels like Trev Alberts is saying that we'd love to have Mickey, stick around on the next step. Why would you say that? unless you maybe talk to somebody like a Matt Rule and you kind of have a verbal agreement. I mean, if it is a Matt Rule and it feels more and more on an hourly basis like that's the direction it's pointing, they've known for a while because he hasn't had to coach a college or pro team. He's been fired. He was fired from Carolina. So if it is Rule, then I think you know already the status of Mickey Joseph. Well, yes. Are you going to have to give him more money? Probably. But it'd be nice to have a guy that could recruit Texas in Matt Rule, and then a guy that can recruit and keep the team together. I think he's already proven that as an interim coach, but can recruit the South, Louisiana, like he can. I think he would just be a great asset, and I think any coach would look at his resume and say, this guy's pretty valuable, probably should keep him.
Yeah, and there's also the possibility if they do keep him, Matt Rule down the line has interest in going for the NFL job after he fixes Nebraska or something like that, and you groom Mickey into that role. Just be careful with that again, because at one time Danny Langsdorff was the head coach in waiting, so you don't want to get too excited about a 4-year things down the line.
I forgot that he was actually the head coach. Danny Langsdorff. Let's see, where is he these days?
I don't even know.
Is he at Oregon State? I don't know. Jonathan Smith's having a good year, that's for sure.
Yeah. And if you missed it, by the way, ESPN's Chris Lowe, before the game, announced that there's expected to be a deal between Matt Rule and Nebraska to be their next coach, a deal being finalized in the next few days. So it's not just rumor out there. Now national reports are kind of jumping in.
How do you feel about that? Are you okay with that hire?
I'm
for
okay.
Nebraska?
I'm okay with it, especially with where Nebraska is. I think that it's somewhat of a line of scrimmage hire like we wanted. He's got a lot of, program building. That's what Nebraska needs. I think is stability. Again, with kind of what Nick's saying, is it a home run hire? I probably wouldn't put it in that category, but I think if you think of the top 10 hires that are going to be made this offseason, it'll probably make top 5, maybe top 6 in that area. Of course, that hasn't mattered in the past either, but if you're just kind of judging it based on that against the other teams, and we'll see, there'll be more jobs opening and guys switching, especially if it's like last year, it might be even higher than that. So I like it. With all these coaches, I've done the research. I know who they are, obviously being in the industry, but I'll have to dive in a little bit deeper to see kind of who he brings along, all that sort of stuff. But I'm fine with it. I'm not over the moon with it, but I think it's a solid hire.
Yeah, I would be obviously over the moon with Urban Meyer.
Right.
But outside of that, there's not a lot of guys out there. Dave Aranda wouldn't have tripped my trigger so much, or a Matt Campbell at Iowa State. There's some names that have certainly fallen. Lance Leipold just re-upped with Kansas. I thought it was leaning in the direction maybe of Chris Kleinman for a while, but then, he's going to be playing the Big 12 championship game. Probably not. You're not going to want to wait around for him to make a decision if you're Trev Alberts. So then it goes back into the court of Matt Rule. And I like the builder thing. I think Nebraska needs to be sure that everything is in place, but because it feels like they've tried to skip some steps in building this thing. Physicality certainly has not been a strength of Nebraska football for a long, long time. And if you can get a guy like Matt Rule that can build the line of scrimmage, as you were saying, who has connections in Texas to a deep degree, who's known for developing talent, and you're building a $160 million facility that really is going to help you do that. It's going to be all about recruiting, sure, but keeping those recruits at Nebraska and then developing them.
Yeah.
And then you go to the transfer portal, but not just willy-nilly. You know exactly what you're looking for, and if it's not available, you don't go there. Iowa didn't even reach into the transfer portal, which I think is a mistake, especially when you look at their quarterback situation, which is just terrible. But I think Nebraska is going to have to be more picky going to the transfer portal. And hopefully that's the big thing that they can correct, is just keeping the guys they already have recruited, because that's a big problem with NIL.
He is Tom Stevens. Tom, thanks again for joining us today as Nick was out in Iowa City. I'm Jake Bockelvin. We got to wrap it up because we got the Tanner's post-game show. So if you're not doing anything else, head out to Tanner's. We got that coming up here next. A reminder, Beatrice Bakery has their Black Friday sale going on right now. Get 25 to 40% off everything from Beatrice Bakery, effective from Friday until Monday. So you've got the weekend to get your Black Friday deal on there. Thanks once again to our sponsors all year long for the After Party Post-Game Show: Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, Gary Michaels Clothiers, and Brandt Excavating. Once again, Nebraska with the win, close out the season by breaking the streak, 24-17 over the hated Hawkeyes, and bring that trophy back to Lincoln. The Heroes Trophy, that is. We'll send it out to the Tanner's Post-Game Show coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing